Look, the e-tolling system has been a crisis from onset with lots of allegations of corruption, fraud and all sorts of things, including excessive hiking of pricing by contractors at the time, as far back as when they started it out in the mid-2000s. But the essential issue is that the system should be scrapped, and the ANC knows that. And so they start playing games to confuse everyone. Because, and I'll tell you why, Makura, as far back as 2014, spent hundreds of millions of rands, which is still hidden, and he refuses to tell us exactly what the amount was, on something called the e-tolling review panel. And when he did that, we objected to it as the EFF when we got into the legislature in 2014, on the basis that he would not have the authority to review or do anything for that matter, because of the fact that the e-tolling system was initiated and owned as a project by National Department of Transport and not the provincial department. So that was our first objection, but he continued anyway. So that is the basis that we say that they're just fooling everybody, playing, good cop, bad cop. I actually don't buy into that Twitter war. I think it's fake, and I don't think it's genuine. The ANC is very good at that. They allow money to be looted. They themselves participate in looting of money, including senior government officials, because I think all of you are sitting in a very comfortable puddle of warm water thinking that the state is in good hands. It's not. It's in a worse state than you believe. There's a lot, massive amounts of corruption, and the ANC is presiding over that. And so in order to continue fooling, residents and citizens of this country, they play these games where one guy says, no, we don't want this. So they've been playing it as far back as 2014 when they did the panel review. The panel had recommendations, some of whom were absolutely ridiculous. In fact, all of them were based on taxing you more. So it was either you're going to increase the fuel levy, you're going to be forced to get an e-tag when you renew your driver's license, your car license disc, all sorts of ridiculous things, even getting more money from the budget of Gauteng, which is still your tax money, whether it comes from National Treasury or it's a little bit of the 10 billion or give or take a few billion of own revenue from Gauteng. And so it's not a real fight, in my view. I mean, of course, you can't prove it, but that is my view. They need to scrap the system, and that's it. You must also remember, lastly, that when they took out the loan from the Austrian government or some Austrian entity, they did not consult the public. And the problem with us South African citizens is that we think that we shouldn't have a say in budgeting matters, like now it's budgeting time, how the money is spent, what it is spent on, what the priorities are that, should be at the top of expenditure. And so we all think, no, it's okay, they didn't do us a favor, that's our money, and they just misspent it, like we said. And so there should be a lot more behind the scenes happening. But the first thing is that they must scrap the system. They must use the gantries for other things because they've got some technology on them. And if those other things are not feasible, they must just recycle the material.
Okay, so then here's a question, and I'd like you to ponder upon it because it needs to go somewhere, and then we'll come back to this discussion, right? If somebody says, I hear you on the procedural issues regarding SANRAL and the e-tolls, but now here's somebody who's at the helm of Treasury who was not party and privy to all of that.
Yes.
And what this guy is saying is, guys, I'm here to collect money. And right now, a user must pay, which is something I'm sure everybody can understand because even, for example, the EFF, party members have a membership fee that they have to pay. If guys don't pay the fee, you don't renew the membership. Yeah. And that's all he's saying, right? Every other mess before that, I guess David Makura can go discuss with the people that he was there with when they came into this deal. Yeah. What would you say to that?
Well, fortunately, we only get political party funding, which all political parties receive who are represented in the legislatures or in the National Assembly. But we do not get money from the state to do services or produce goods or infrastructure or pay salaries, etc., right, for the state. We don't get that. We get money to increase democratic mobilization and democratic participation of citizens of South Africa. So let's deal with that and set it aside. Tito Mboweni doesn't have the privilege to dissociate himself from decisions taken by prior governments. Let me give you a worst-case scenario. Let's assume government was run by the EFF after the May 2019 elections. Even if it was the ANC prior to us, when you win an election to run a municipality, a ward, a province, national, you are inheriting whatever the state had done before. That is why the African National Congress, well, ill-advised as it was, but they went into what was called a Government of National Unity in 1994, based on so-called negotiations, right, with the Nazis. But they could not disown many things that were done by the apartheid government. So you have to continue government like that. It's a seamless government. You simply just take a break in between the terms to determine who must run government. That's what the elections are there for. So that's the one thing. The second thing is that he can't do that. It's unethical, it's unprincipled, especially because the previous ministers, all of them that did this nonsense, were African National Congress ministers under an African National Congress government, which he is part of. The third reason is that we have what is called proportional representation. We don't use a system that is based on constituency decision. So you don't vote for Mandisa Mashego, you vote for the economic freedom fighters who then decide to deploy. And so for those three central reasons, he cannot divorce himself from that decision, and he has to take responsibility, and he has to accept whatever wrongdoing had happened.